Hi, this is AJ Girdage, and this is Durbraal's Labyrinth Video Update Report 1. As far as basic changes to the project go, I've decided that I will be flipping the level development and the art asset integration phases. So this next phase that I will be presenting for will be regarding level development rather than the art assets I previously planned. This is simply because after considering how the project would go along, I really needed to nail down the levels early, so that way I could develop art specifically for each level later on. Over the last 2 weeks, though, I've been developing core features, which is what I'm here to show you today. So, the first thing that I worked on that I talked about last week in class was the VR headset. I do finally have the VR headset working, and it works very well. Unfortunately, the video is a bit laggy because there's limited support for video output, especially with the Gear VR. So I'm using a mirroring software and then recording this on a desktop device. What I'm showing you now is the ability that I can look around, I can see everything that's going on. I've changed the way the UI works so that way the wand, so there's a separate camera specifically for the UI that the wand is within. So the wand is actually being overlaid on top of everything. It still responds to environmental effects, so if you walk up to something it pulls up, but it will no longer clip through boundaries. The other thing that I'm trying to show here is that it does track your head appropriately, and I had to move certain UI elements, such as the reticle, into world space rather than view space. This is a condition of VR because you have two eyes, so you have two cameras. What I'm showing now is one of the features I implemented, which was a simple button. So it's simple enough. You turn it on, it waits a couple seconds, turns off. I've also changed the player controller, or the VR controller that is, so that way it feels much more comfortable whenever you're inside the VR headset. Previously it was completely physics-based, so whenever you jumped around, as soon as you jumped, you'd keep going wherever you first had initial velocity. But it now works, so no matter where you're holding the button, you will be moving in that direction. This next part is a logic item that I've been working on. I've been working heavily with further developing the logic elements in this game, because it's a logic puzzle game. So, I previously had these buttons before, but just turning on and off buttons isn't that interesting. So I've decided to add in certain other elements which will be used in the levels, such as sequence and combo logic. In this instance, I'm trying to show that there is combo logic, and that if you press the left and the right buttons, and only those two buttons, will the top logic element become true. Lastly, I want to show you that there's a new feature I've added which is going to be really important in the game, especially whenever it comes to enemies, which involves eyesight. So that red block is actually just a demo enemy that I put in that has basic characteristics, but the real important thing is that whenever you look away from it, it will begin to move and act. Similarly, this wall on the side here, you notice that everything turned off. I can do this same effect for just about anything in the game. If I'm looking at it or not looking at it will be a major portion of how VR is integrated into the game I'm developing. Because it's a much different experience than simply turning the mouse and seeing somewhere else and then turning back and seeing something's changed, as opposed to feeling like something has changed while you weren't looking at it from a VR perspective. Very different. This is, I know it's a bit silly, but I jumped on top of there just to show that I changed the way the jump works as well, so it's much more dynamic and allows me to pretty much go anywhere I want. I wanted to show off the boss level again, just because in my Game Jam video, I had the boss kind of just float around and he didn't really attack, so I wanted to show him that he can attack. The flames, I put them out because there's currently an issue that I'm having where the flames are on as soon as the scene starts, but that's something I'll get fixed very quickly. The major thing I want to show is that the boss is capable of shooting at you and causing damage, and just what the game will kind of look and feel like in VR. This next part is kind of an accident actually, but I decided to keep it in because I want to show you kind of what happens next. So this is looking down, and I've just barely slipped off the edge, and I can cling to the wall right now, but I'm about to fall off. So it's very creepy from a VR perspective because you do feel like you're kind of like on the edge, because, well, you are. But once I fall here, there's actually a exception that is thrown at me from within the game, and I'll pause the video at this point, but you can see down here in the bottom right of the video that there are certain log messages. This is a part of the debug window which I've been using, which has drastically improved how quickly I can test a feature and see if there's any bugs with it, because I can constantly write out to that log window and see, while playing the game in a VR headset, what potential issues I might be facing. So that's my update for the week 6, 17th of February. The next 3 weeks we'll be focusing on level development more than anything else. So it's all in the level development, a little bit of testing, and lots of programming just to implement some of the unique features for each level.